Fáilte Róga Leagan Seániu. You're all very welcome here to this initiative, which was Breezy and Sharon have come together to talk about the idea that Judith Ward Ho had. Judith, did I get her name right?
Yeah,
Ward Ho had had in 1872, where she wanted to gather all mothers and grandmothers and anybody who raised children together, so that her belief was that we didn't raise our children to kill other mothers' children. So, Breezy, first of all, I'll tell you a little bit about her in case you don't know her. So this is Breezy here, Breezy Kelly from Glenties. And 14 years ago, was it, she chose the activity of baking bread as a channel for peace, because she says it's one of the most common and basic communal activities shared by people all over the world. And at that time, when this little article was written, there was a lot of chaos in the world. There was wars going on in Syria and other places, and the government seemed to be ignoring the idea of peace, burying their heads in the sand. And so Breezy came up with this initiative, Baking Bread for Peace, and then Sharon joined her, and they've designated the 24th of October every year as International Bake Bread for Peace Day, and they've been doing that ever since. Started off, Breezy used to go to different places and bake the bread in different parts of Ireland, and then in the last few years she's just brought it all back home to Glenties and encouraged other people to do the same thing in their own areas to make it a worldwide initiative. And we're hoping that the same thing will happen now with this initiative today, which is the Congress of Women. Yeah. So, and then Sharon, this is Sharon here to my right, and Sharon grew up in Belfast.
She's the prodigy.
2 peas in a pod. See it here in front. So Sharon grew up in Belfast during the height of the conflict, and she's a storyteller and a performer of monologues. And her Belfast Blitz story has been critically acclaimed throughout the North. And both Sharon and her husband Marcus have been involved in various peace initiatives over the years, and Sharon has facilitated art projects involving women from different political and religious backgrounds. Her husband hosted the Cross Community Holidays for Children. Sharon herself is a mother and a grandmother, and she longs for a peaceful world for her children and for your children to grow up in. So I'll hand you over to Breezy now, and she'll tell us a little bit more.
This is kind of a new way to communicate my message, if you like, because normally there's a kitchen table in front of me and I'm baking, and but there's no such props today. The first thing I want to do is to acknowledge the belief that back in 1872, little did Judith Ward Howe imagine that her name and her message would be of such relevance over 100 years later. And here we find ourselves in 2026, still a world full of conflict. The idea, the hope of today's gathering is for ordinary mothers and grandmothers to share our thoughts and concerns about the idea of our sons and daughters being called up to go to war. Now, there is called up to go to war and conscription. Are they the same thing? I think so. It's argued that if a young person willingly joins the army in peace times, that it's not the same as conscription. However, if a war happens while they voluntarily signed up for the armed forces, they're still, if a war comes out, they're still sent to war. You know, and here in Ireland, we claim to be a neutral country. I have questions over that. Like we actually have a very unique situation here in Ireland, like in having endured colonial occupation for centuries. You know, and like having fought to obtain freedom and self-determination for most of the country. The last 100 years, it still remains a part of our country under that same colonial control. As a way of securing freedom of the whole country, the people of Ireland were asked back in 1998 by referendum to approve a peaceful solution, i.e. the North would remain under British control unless and until the majority would remain under the British rule, unless and until a majority of the population in the North voted by way of referendum to bring an end to the border, if you like. Now, people both north and south at the time approved the proposal. Come on in. Don't be shy. Collect. Good job. So it's private.
Thank you. This was all.
At that time, both the people of North and South approved the this peace plan, but there was a condition applied that it was only the British Secretary of State for Northern Ireland was the only person who would be entitled to decide if the time was right to hold a referendum to free the North from the Isle British. Before I go any further, I will say you cannot judge a people by the actions of their government. No. But anyway, inexplicably, the people of the Republic, they wouldn't have a vote in such a referendum. It would be up to the North. So it could be said that we in Ireland have first-hand experience of wars and of peace processes. There's other arguments that support the idea that Ireland is a neutral country and is not a member of NATO. This means that Ireland is not obliged to send troops to a NATO country that is under attack, that, for example, Russia or China. But this so-called neutrality, it's not written in our constitution. Did you know that? No, it's not written in our constitution, which means that the government of the day can decide what it means. In the past week, we've been told about the plant in Limerick that's producing aluminium that's been shipped off to Russia for the making of drones. Is that being neutral? And Shannon Airport, as we all know, it's used daily for US aircraft, military aircraft, to stop off, refuel, and I've been told that it's a common sight to see US soldiers hanging about the place in full uniform, having their beverages and their cigarettes or whatever. You know, like I question the fact, and that's what I'm putting to you books here today. You know, does that not put a question there? Are we really neutral? And you know, it doesn't seem so to me all the time. Then on the other hand, we Irish, we send peacekeeping forces. soldiers to war zones. You know, at the moment, our soldiers are part of the United Nations peacekeeping force. So, like, it's definitely a kind of a mixed message. You know, we're supporting American activities by allowing them to land. Things that are being produced in our country are seemingly being shipped off to create weapons or parts of weapons. And I think that questions our absolute neutrality, but I'm hoping to hear what you guys think today about that. At the moment, there are discussions happening in Europe about a European army. Now, where would that leave us then, as part of the European Union? Would our young people be conscripted to join this European army? You know, I think the lack of our neutrality being written into our constitution is a door open there that if we leave it too late, it might be closed again. Yeah. We actually are in a great position to promote world peace. And I, like, mothers, grandmothers, we are the ones who are always left picking up the pieces. You know, I've yet to meet, mind you, I haven't met mothers from other countries who have lost children tragically in war, you know, that were in the armed forces. I've read accounts of the sorrow. And it's just heartbreaking. And what I want us to do, hopefully here today, is ask ourselves, how would we feel to send our young people to war? In fact, these wars are created by men. Men, a lot of them, I'm not going naming any books today, but there's all colours of books knocking around. Orange, you know. I actually had a message.
Start a war in here.
I actually became a message on the machine from a woman who had watched one of the wee videos I put up. I was sitting out in my greenhouse in my dressing gown, and her comment was something like, "You should be going to the White House dressed exactly as
I think you should definitely go to the White House, Breezy. I think you would be well able for him.
There's no doubt there's mixed messages about our neutrality.
Yeah.
You know, and to protect our young people in the future of Ireland, I would like that. I don't know how you go about these things, and I'm hoping that maybe some of you know, but we'll find out, and we always have. You're one here. But there's certainly not enough mothers, grandmothers and others being represented at the highest levels that make these decisions. Yes, there are women, but, and I apologise for this, anybody who's, there are women, I think, who have forgotten the tenderness in their pursuit to be part of a man's world. They've abandoned often their tenderness and gentleness, and a lot of. Do you know what I honestly think? I would love if the mothers of some of these leaders and decision makers would catch them by the fucking ear and say, listen, you're too old now to be playing with soldiers. Would you get out there and plant religious buds or something? No, seriously. You know, it's a trivial way of but yes. But why shouldn't we have a say? You know, and this, I hope, is the start of finding out how we can move forward in a gentle, tender way to protect our children, their children, and their children's children. You know, that they're not obliged to go to war and kill other mothers, sons and daughters. So that's one of the things that I'm hoping that we'll get around to. You know, in a while we'll have another old cup of tea. There's some cards there. You might have to queue up for pens, but never mind, you can. To write your thoughts and ideas of what possibly ways forward. Your feelings about the ideas of your children being conscripted into an army, you know? Like, and the other thing, like daily we're reading in the newspaper. Did any of you read about the Russian submarines in Irish waters off the coast of Donegal? You didn't see them in a wee island, did you?
Nope. Thankfully, no.
And in Mayo, and it's something to do with tracking fibre underground.
Optic, yeah.
I don't know about these things. I don't think they know either. And like Ireland have pulled them up about it, and Russia have argued back and denied and all sorts. So, like, they don't listen anymore. If a request is made, you're possibly without your knowing, you slipped into our waters. Could you kind of back out again? No, there's no such dialogue anymore. There's no, like we see it every time we turn on a machine, as I call it, the machine. So yes. Listen, girls, I think you get the gist of what I'm saying. And the aim of Judith Ward Howe, as I said already, it's as relevant today as it was in 1872. Indeed, if not more relevant. And those aims were, or are, to promote an alliance of different nationalities, women from different nationalities, mothers, grandmothers, ordinary people from different nationalities, to discuss the amicable settlement of international affairs. Why shouldn't we have a voice? And also the great and general interest of peace. So, I've written here, it seems to me that we as mothers, grandmothers and general women of Ireland, we have an important stand to make. And what better way to make it than to campaign for no conscription of our sons and daughters, either during peacetime or war. That's one starting point. So, that's kind of why I've asked you to join us here today. And I hope when we leave here today that we might have some start, what do they call it? When you
Acorn?
put the first ideas down.
Acorn.
An acorn of an idea
Plant the seed.
to plant and to grow something from this. That we ordinary mothers, grandmothers, aunts, godmothers, that we can influence at some level or find out how to influence the decision making. I hand you back to Noelle.